Well, it's garden weeding time again here on the farm. I mean, the work never ends. I don't know when I get a moment to go out and enjoy myself, really. It just never ends here. So here's the garden behind me. I have to go through again. I just did it about 2 weeks ago. Now I have to go through again. It's a tough life here. But for weeding a garden, you need a significant hat. And the hat is what I've got, or what I've got, I should say. So there's the garden. Here's some of the weeds I have to remove. So these are called horse weeds. And basically I just pull these out easily. They come out easily, luckily. So those aren't too much of a problem, especially after the rain we had yesterday. Various clovers, chickweeds, and little things like that. Nothing major. Blue weed, or viper's bug loss, I'll just leave this here because the birds and butterflies, hummingbirds and butterflies, really like it. Some of our lupins that are now past their prime. So I use a variety of tools when weeding. As I showed, a lot of plants I just pull up by my hands. Sometimes I'll use gloves if they're really prickly or hard plants, but for the gentle, simpler ones I'll just use my hands because I can get a finer touch on the plant stems. Sometimes I'll use just a little garden trowel like this to dig up the roots of a deeper rooted plant. If it's a big clump of grass, I'll use the good old well-known garden pitchfork. Can't really beat this for big clumped root plants like grass or some of the deeper weeds. Sometimes I'll use a little cultivator instrument like this, which can have 3 or 5 prongs on it, and that doesn't always pull the weeds out, but sometimes if you do it enough, it cultivates the soil and then the weeds are easier to pull out. And one tool I really like a lot is this hoop hoe. So it has the little cultivator teeth. Typically this one does. You can also buy the hoop hoe by itself, but this one has a few cultivator teeth here and a very thin metal strip that acts as a hoe. You just drag it through the soil like this and it strips off, or it cuts the roots of the weeds, and then you can just pull them out easily. That one I really like for a lot of the various weeds we have here. So here's some of these horse weeds. I'll just pull them out. Now here's some of the smaller chickweed type stuff. This is probably an aster of some sort. I'm not sure I planted it, but I'll leave it. This is a grapevine that got in here on its own, but I'm going to leave it because they can make some interesting plants in the garden. Here's some clovers underneath it. I'll get rid of those, just pulling them. This is one of my cleomes that seeded itself from previous years. Those cleome plants seed themselves quite regularly. You just have to remember to somewhat not disturb the soil in the spring, if you can do that. Now I have actually gone through here and weeded a few times, but they still manage to grow up, so I'll let them be. Another weed that's very common here. There's a mixture of pigweed and a nightshade type that's quite common. Got to be careful because I got some more cleomes in here. My marigolds, these are ones I grew from indoors. They're starting to bloom now, and here's some large zinnias that I've put a little pot around just to protect them from chewing on and biting off by rabbits and chipmunks. And then I've twist tied it around this little wooden stick because they were kind of prone to blowing over in the high winds earlier in the spring. Some more horseweed here. There's a zinnia, nice zinnia I grew from seed indoors. My Mexican sunflowers have had a bit of a hard time this year. They were chewed off by rabbits or chipmunks, so I've put them now in these cans. Here's a healthier looking one. I'm hoping now if we're going to get a little more regular rain, they're going to grow a bit better. But these guys too will get 6 feet tall and be covered with orange flowers at the end of the summer. Nice little mound of speedwell in nice bloom now. So the hoop hoe just goes beneath the surface and you scrape through the roots. As long as you keep that blade sharp, it does a pretty quick job. Sheep sorrel is a real common weed. It has long underground tendril type roots that keep spreading, so it's good to get it out. Another one here, so you can see the roots on it. Horse weeds again, grass, sorrel. This is a coreopsis here. You can see it coming into bloom. Just get rid of some of this clover sorrel type stuff, and then you can see the plants a little better, the actual flowers. Here's just some more of these nightshades that really sprout up quickly. There's also a lot of these little leathery leaf purslanes in here. I don't mind them too much. They stick along the ground for the most part, and when they get big I may pull them out. You can see the cleomes scattered in amongst here, just having reseeded themselves. What I had originally done with this garden to edge it was simply to dig a trough around the edge about 1/2 foot deep and use that to prevent grass from this side from coming in. And it works generally well, but you have to keep reinforcing the edge. As you can see here, I haven't done it in a while, so you not only get weeds up in here, but you get runoff from heavy rain events coming down and filling up the little moat. So I need to go through here, clean out the weeds like I've done here, and reestablish this little trough. And that just helps keep a nice separation from the garden itself, from the grass. And you can see here how weeds get in from the grass to the garden. They go down, we have these nasty quack grass that go from the grass right into the garden. So that's another important reason to keep this trough fairly deep as long as you can. So what I'm going to do now is just put a rim of horse manure, rotted horse manure, around these Mexican sunflowers, because the problem so far this year has been the drought. If these plants dry out frequently, they really slow grow. So what I found last year, after I mulched a couple of them, they really grew fast. Now these have an old mulch, but it's worn out and it needs to be replaced. But for now, I'm just going to put a layer of horse manure around each one, maybe 1 foot wide. And that'll help keep the moisture in the ground as well as supply nutrients when it rains. So that'll really help them to sprout up, I think. Because they're a bit behind, quite a bit behind. They're still not much bigger than when I put them out, thanks to the fact that the rabbits cut them right off at the base. Then I put them in the cans, and luckily they re-sprout fairly quickly, these plants. The grass there, they'll get covered up. There, a nice 2-inch thick layer of rotted horse manure. Should help them to grow more regular. If you keep constant moisture, not wet, but just a good degree of moisture, then they grow a lot faster. I'll throw a bit down in the can even just to cover the surface in there a little bit. There, that should help. Now we had a good rain yesterday, a 1/2 inch, so this will help keep the moisture in that soil for them.